must have these 8 elements. Of course, there are more than that. For example, the authors and affiliations. Some paper have acknowledgement. Also, there's other sections can be requested by the journal. If you are submitting, for example, study about animals or something, you need to have many other things. Just an example. Also, some like journalists, they request to have a supplementary information. However, we only focus on these 8, and for today's lecture, I will explain one by one. Maybe some of them I will spend a lot of time because they are very important. For example, like the methodology and the results. Also, for example, the abstract is also important. I will go one by one. First, I will explain about how we structure each one of these elements, and then I will explain about the things that you should do and things you should avoid for each one of these sections. And hopefully, inshallah, after today's session, you will have a very clear idea and very clear information about paper writing. Okay, now before I go into these elements one by one, I would like to explain what actually I mean by IMRaD or IMRAD, or what is this structure. Okay, let me tell you. The IMRaD is actually stand for I for introduction, M for materials and methods, R and D is stand for results and discussion. So this is the structure we called IMRaD structure. Because other papers, or sorry, other structures, they might have theory, they might have, for example, in the methodology, they break it into different, so they will start, instead of having a methodology and results, they will have different sections. But this format is the, like let us say, the most used format. And for you undergraduate students who is just engaged in research recently, if you know about this, structure, it might be very useful and help. I mean, it's a good start to start from here. So, of course, I will explain also about the title and abstract keywords, but the main focus of today will be on the on the IMRaD portion, which is the introduction, materials and methods. Materials and methods, usually we call the methodology, and then the result and discussion. So let me now start with the first element of a research article, which is the title. So what is a title? A title is the name of a research paper, article, or report that briefly and clearly indicates the main topic, focus, or the purpose of the work. So the title, when you want to write your title or your paper title or your research title, first you need to make it somehow grab the reader's attention. Make your title is like attractive. So the reader will be, when he view a list of papers, directly he will go to your article because the title is quite attractive. So is that is all? No, there is many other things. For example, make your title in a way that your title answer the reader's question. Is this article relevant to me? Because guys, sometimes if I want to if you want to like write a title or select a title, you need to make sure that that title actually represent what you wrote. Because me, for example, as a reader, if I read your title or your paper title, I will understand if this title is relevant to me or no. For example, let us assume that there's a student from mechanical department, they doing research on mechanical research area. So they wrote a title with some mechanical terms. For me, as a researcher from, for example, electronics, when I read the title, I will understand that title is actually has some things to deal with mechanical research. So it will be very clear for me. So this is very important. Do not create or make title like very general. So when someone read, he will not understand this actually belong to which area or target which research discipline. So you need to make sure is your title is relevant and answer the question to any reader, is that article relevant to him or no? So another thing, the title is extremely important and must be chosen with great care as indexing and abstracting. What do we mean by indexing and abstracting? Actually, let us say now you already have your article and you already send it and your article is published. So you know that in the research database, for example, like Scopus or maybe Google Scholar or even just Google or any search engine, usually they do something like indexing. What the indexing means that they archive all the article that in the internet, they will archive it based on what in the title or what's in the keywords. So make sure that the words that you choose for your title is good for indexing. I mean, do not make your title have a lot of these words like in, of, into. To try to make some words that when someone search your article will come up, maybe in the top 10, something like that. I believe people who is from computer science, they know about this, how the research, how the search engine index the content or research in general. Another thing, a good title is defined as the fewest possible words that describe the content of the paper. When you say that, make your title is like clear and relative to the content of your paper. Also, please avoid to make it long. I mean, when you create a title and the title, for example, 2 sentences or maybe like 2 lines or 3 lines, that is not good. Try to use or choose the fewest possible words to describe. If you describe it, no need to like what they say sometimes like overuse some words or make it long. So please try to make it short, but at the same time describe what you are writing. Another thing, it should contain keywords. And as I said, also the keywords are actually very important for the indexing and also important for the abstracting your article. And later on, when you publish, people can easily find your paper. And you know, after that, because now you only concerned about how to publish article, but after you publish, you want people to cite your article. You want people to use and to read. So you can from now you need to be careful about that by making your title nice and choosing the correct keywords. Okay, so now I explained about some things about title. Now, how to prepare the title. So you know now how your title should look like. But now you want to start creating or you want to start write the title. So what's the steps? The step number 1 is make a list of the most important keywords. For example, you are doing a study on about material characterization, or you are doing fabrication of sensor, or you are creating some kind of electronic system. Then try to collect all the keywords that you are that might be important. You make like collect all them together. Then think of a title that contains these words. Maybe you have 5 words, or maybe you have 6 or 7. So now think how to link them together to make a good title. So this is the step number 2. The step number 3, the title could state the conclusion of the paper. So after your paper, of course, you have a conclusion. For example, you create a device, you fabricate sensor, you create algorithm or program or some kind of AI prediction. So when you combine all these keywords together, try to make this title describe the conclusion of your paper. So what is the conclusion? What did you conclude about your paper? So this is also very important. So this is about the title. Now, in each element of the research paper, I will mention about things that you should do and things you should avoid, because this is very important for you to be careful about some things, and for other things you should utilize. For example, number 1 for the title, make the title specific and informative. Avoid vague titles. You know, sometimes you need to make the title very specific. Do not create like some difficult words. You know, some people, they might choose a very complicated, let's say, words, you know, or English terms. It would be a little bit difficult. So no need to make something very complicated. Just make something specific, simple, and straightforward. This will help the readers to understand. Another point, include precise technical terms. I believe most of you guys are actually engineers, since you are from KFUPM here. Most of us are engineer or maybe scientists also from science discipline. So in this thing, please, some of the terms that in your title, they should be technical. Technical means technical. You mentioned something about the experiment. You mentioned something about the technical things that you have done in your research. So to make your title looks strong. Number 3, use keywords that reflect the main content and aim outcome of the paper. And this is, I already mentioned that early, that the keywords make them reflect what's the content of your paper. So do not put some words on your title and these words or these keywords are not on your paper. This one is not ethical. So please try to use the keywords that is only from your paper. Now, what you should avoid. Number 1, do not use abbreviation or jargon in the title. Abbreviation means that, you know abbreviation. For example, AI, I will say AI. I will, instead of artificial intelligence, I will just write AI. So sometimes it is allowed, especially for those abbreviation which has become very common. Like everybody now know that AI is artificial intelligence. If I use, for example, 3D, everybody know that 3D means what? 3-dimensional. So if these words are very common, it's okay to use. But sometimes there might be some words, some abbreviation is very, like, they are very specific to special research discipline, for example, but not known by other people. So those difficult abbreviation, try to avoid. Also do not use too long and unfocused title. This is also, I mentioned that the title, if it is too long, it is not nice. I mean, try to make it like one line and a half. Maybe I will mention about the length later. Another thing, if your title is too long, this is also, the reader will be distracted. He will start to read the first maybe 10 words, and then the following 10, he will become already like lost his focus. So please make it short, but at the same time describe your research. Overuses filler words. The filler words like better, different things, some, thoughts, try to also avoid in your title. So again, as I mentioned early, in each of the elements of the research article, after I mention about what the things that you should do, what's the things that you should avoid, then I will follow that by an example. So let us see, we have here an example of good title and also poor title. I will explain why this is good and why the other one is not good. For example, the good one here, the title says capacitance dust sensing using ZNO on 3D printed mesh, a prototype circuit study. This is good. Why? Because first it has some technical. For example, here we do capacitive. We also have some prototype circuits. So there is things are technical. And also it is clear. For example, what is the title about? Is it about the dust sensing, for example? What is the things that you are using in your sensor? In your sensor, you are using, for example, zinc oxide, which is a material, and also you are using 3 material mesh, for example. And also there is very clear that this title or this study also have something about circuits. So there's a lot of things you can see in this title. An example for poor title is, for example, this one, some experiments on dust and materials. I tried to make make these two is relevant to each other, so to compare. So this says some. You cannot use you can use this word, the sum, in your title. And experiments. What kind of experiments? It is not clear. It is not complete. Also, it mentioned dust. What dust? Is it sensing? Is it collection? Is it mitigation? It is also not clear. And also, he mentioned materials. What's materials? It is very, very general. So try to make it more specific. So this is a poor title. Another example, as you can see here, real-time detection of microplastic in water via electrokinetics readout circuits. Something similar. They have a lot of technicals. They mention about microplastic detection. So it is very clear that this people, what they are working on. So in the poor example, again, this is the title says study of particles in water and investigation. What investigation? This is also not clear. And study of particles. What type of particles? So this is, you need to know how to create a title. For me, I would suggest that for you to have the perfect length of a title is 10 words. If you create a title with 10 words, this is perfect. This is actually according to me, okay? Because some people might have different view for what is the perfect title or how many. Some people will say, okay, between 10 to 12. Some people will say, make it below 15. If you want my advice, for me, the best length of a title is 10 words. So this is about the title. Now I will move to the second thing, which is the abstract. The second element of a paper is the abstract. This is also very important. So a good abstract is an invitation to read your paper. We know that, I'm not sure if you also guys know, that the abstract is something like when you invite someone to your house, for example, what's the first thing he will see? Maybe he will see the visiting room. In a paper writing, abstract is something that you will invite the readers to either to read your paper or either not to read your paper. So an abstract can be defined as a summary of the information in the documents. So everything in your paper, everything in your research article is summarized in the abstract. So make sure that this invitation looks nice and beautiful and can attract the reader to continue read your paper. Also here, the second point here say that first and sometimes the only part of the manuscript read means that most of the time for us researcher, when I read some paper, sometimes I will only read the abstract. And of course, it will be the first one that I should read. Sometimes I might go directly to the results or maybe directly to the methodology, but most of the time I will only read the abstract. I will see, is the abstract contain the things that I'm looking for or no? Is the abstract like this invitation is good, attract me to read the whole paper, or I feel like from the abstract, I feel this paper is not worth to be read. So another thing, it should provide a brief summary of each of the main sections. If you still remember in the second slide, I mentioned about what do we mean by IMRaD, which is the introduction, methodology, research, and discussion. So the abstract basically contains these things, but summarized. We summarize the introduction, we summarize the methodology, we summarize the results and discussion. All these elements are summarized in the abstract. So now I will also mention that about other things in the abstract you should include. Guys, of course, I will give an example later on about how the abstract looks like. Number one, address the problem, and this is very important. You are doing a research. When you are doing a research, it means that you are actually solving a problem. So address this problem in your abstract. Make it clear. The second thing is state the principal objective. So what's actually the objective of writing this paper? You must have an objective, which is to solve this problem using some kind of method. Number three, describe the methods used. So when you are doing a research, of course, you are using a method, and we will come to this elements in details in the methodology. But here, only just describe, maybe one sentence in the abstract about the methodology. Four, summarize the results. Also in your abstract, you should summarize the results. And when you summarize the results, maybe you only need maybe like 2 or 3 sentences from your results and discussion to put in the abstract, a summary. Maybe you have a lot of results. You select the best result and put it in the abstract. Number 5, state the principal conclusion. After you do all these, the fourth step, the last sentence in your abstract, you should conclude. And also some people, when they conclude, they conclude their research, and they will say that, okay, this research is actually very important for, they mention some application, and they will say that why this is important, why our research is very important, or why our the things that we are do can, for example, be useful in life. So this is the things that you should put on the abstract. So, yes.
I'm sorry, but is this mandatory for students who took the course research in the second semester? Because like I finished my paper and I will submit it like in 2 weeks when the deadline, when the submission opens.
Yeah, actually, this is why we create this session or this lecture to be before the submission day. So it is good maybe if you need to upgrade or to update or to make it your paper is. In generally you want to improve. So you might these things that you miss. Maybe by today's session or by today's lecture, you might refresh your mind, see if there's things that maybe you missed something, you want to update it, or maybe you want to improve. But this session, I believe it is compulsory for people who are getting the email, they should attend. However, maybe the question, I prefer to have it at the end. We can have half an hour to have a discussion, or maybe if any one of you want like suggestion, or he want to ask something about his paper, he want to know is it right or no, we can do that inshallah at the last half an hour. So now I will just make a very quick and overview of the all elements, and inshallah we can discuss later. I believe this is the compulsory for all of you, and later on inshallah we can do a question and answer. It's better for me to continue without any interruption, so later on inshallah we can have more discussion. Okay, so I will continue. After the abstract, I mentioned about what you should do, including the abstract. Now, how to write the abstract. First, as I mentioned, maybe this is a repeat, something I repeat again, but because it's very important. Summarize the introduction, maybe one sentence in your abstract to summarize the introduction. Also, maybe you need two sentences about the methodology that you use. Also, you need to summarize the results, and also you need to summarize the conclusion. So basically, this is the abstract. Is it a summary of your paper? Not all paper, summary of only 4 sections, which is introduction, methodology, result, and discussion. What are the key phrases or the key words that you should start when you're writing your abstract? I believe when you actually do a research, you will read, of course, papers, right? And when you read papers, you will get some idea about people, how actually they are writing their abstract. Here, I'm just suggesting few things. For example, when you want to start your introduction, maybe you can start with our aim or the objective of something like that. When you want to start the methodology sentence, you mention something about we analyze it or we measure it, and also mention that characterization method that you are using in your research. And if you want to start a sentence about the result, you can say that we found that, and then continue your sentence. Also, you might mention that we discussed these results, and we found that this kind of start when you start writing the abstract. Also, at the end, you will mention about in conclusion to conclude the overall abstract. And when you conclude the abstract, means that you actually conclude the whole paper. And by the way, guys, abstract is the last part of the paper we usually write. After we finish everything, we get a result, we write all the elements, then we come to the abstract to close the paper. So this is the last actually abstract, although it is the first element in your paper, but when during writing, we write the abstract at the end. So now I will also talk about some of the criteria about the abstract. First, length depends on the publisher. Might someone ask me how long the abstract should be? I would say do not make it too long, maybe 300 words is enough. But the length is actually depend on the publisher. If you send paper to, for example, Springer or maybe Elsevier or IEEE, they have specific length, so you need to follow. If it is too long, you need to reduce it. If it is too short, you need to increase the length. And usually should not exceed 250 words or 200. It depends on the publisher. Another point here, it should be written in one paragraph. And this is also very important. Do not make your abstract like 2 paragraphs or 3. Make it only single paragraph. Another thing is it should be written in the past tense. This is also not all true, not all the time true, because it's also depend on the publisher. Some of the publisher, they request you to make it on the present tense. So before I suggest you, before you target or you send your paper to a journal, maybe some of you want to target the undergraduate research journal by KFUPM. I'm not sure actually what type of style they use on the abstract, but some like international journal, they are actually different. So before you submit, maybe you need to check 1 or 2 of the papers published by that journal and check what type of verb tense they are using. Number 4, long words should be followed by its abbreviation, which should be used throughout the abstract and papers. So this is also very important. In the abstract, if you use a term or abbreviation, you need to define it. For example, if you are using, let us say, characterization method, for example, like XRD. So before you are writing XRD, you need to mention before X-ray diffraction, for example. You need to define the abbreviation in the abstract only the first time that you are using. Then you define them again in the introduction. Another thing, number 5, it should not cite any references, and this is very important. Usually the beginners will do this mistake. They put citation on the or reference on the abstract. Please do not put any citation or reference. Most of the time, we do not do that. Only very, very rare cases, some journal allow to use or to put some references on the abstract. It should never give any information or conclusion that is not stated on the paper. And this is also another important point. Do not put any information or any conclusion. Do not say that we did this thing, but on the paper you did not do. So the abstract must only contain the things that you do on your paper. Avoid to include some information that is actually not from your paper. It is easier to write the abstract after the completion of the paper, and I already mentioned about that. The abstract usually is the last part of your paper that you should write. Now we come to the do and do not. In abstract, summarize the purpose, method, result, and conclusion concisely. And this is also, I mentioned that the abstract is actually is a summary. Highlight the novelty or contribution clearly. This is most of the people actually miss. For example, in your research, what's the things that are new? So what's the new thing that you have done in your research? Please highlight about that. Sometimes this novelty can be in the methodology, like a new method you are using, or a combination of one or two method, and sometimes can be in the result. Maybe your result something novel there. So please make it clear. So this is because it will help the reviewer to accept or reject your paper. If the novelty is clear, it might be good point for you, so that the reviewer, when they start to read your abstract, they will know there is something new. Also, do make it self-content. Means that if someone read your abstract, he will understand everything in your paper. So he will not need to go and to read like more details. So self-content means that it is self-stand, something like that. Another thing, do use clear, concise sentence, and this is also I mentioned that. Please make them clear. Do not use a complicated terms or words, and also do not use a very simple the way of writing. Now, what's the things that you should avoid on the abstract? Number 1, do not include result not mentioned in the paper, and also I mentioned about that. Anything that not in your paper, do not put it on the abstract. Do not include a clear background or too much literature review. This is also a very important point, because some people, they will write maybe 3 to 4 sentences about the previous studies. The abstract make it all about your research, about your work. Yes, you need literature review, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. That's all. So do not overuse the background. Do not like create or include so many literature review in your abstract, because I noticed that I review some paper and I saw some of the students, they usually write maybe half of the abstract is all about previous study. In the abstract, people want to know about you, about your research. So what you have done, what you have concluded. Do not use citation or long references in the abstract. And also, I think I also mentioned that avoid to use the citation. Do not claim things you did not do, and also do not exceed the word limit. If the word limit is 300, please just stick with that. You need to, if you create a long abstract, then you need to reduce it. Okay, now let us have an example about abstract. This is an example. This is one of my papers. I put it here because it will be very easy for me to explain to you. So here in the right side, I like highlight about each one of these content of the abstract. So in the first one, I put an introduction. This paper is actually about carbon nanotubes to be used in gas sensor application. So I use carbon nanotubes in gas sensor. Okay, so this is my paper about. So what I do, In the first sentence, I just give an introduction about this is the literature review, which I only one sentence. What is carbon nanotubes and what are the applications? So basically, I say carbon nanotubes made good candidate active material for gas sensing application. Finish. Then in the next two sentences, I focus more on the problem statement. So, okay, if these carbon nanotubes is good for sensing, so what is the problem? Then I mention here, I said that the responsibility and sensitivity of carbon nanotubes, maybe they are not good. The sensitivity is not good. And also I mentioned about the other material that I use, and I said also this material also not good because it has low conductivity and high resistance. So now in the second two sentences, I mentioned about what is the problem. After you mention the problem, which is actually very important to mention the problem that you are solving, then you will start with this word, this paper. Or you can say that in this paper, now you will mention or you will write about your objectives. What you will do in this paper, or what are you doing in your paper? You will mention that my paper present blah blah blah, and you explain what are you doing. So you will mention that I did gas sensor I fabricate, or maybe I create a new algorithm. You mention what you have done in your paper. After you mention the objectives or your objective or what you did, then it is good time to start with the methodology. Now explain the method that you are using. What method you are using? What algorithm, for example, you are using? What's the fabrication method that you use? What's the characterization method that you have done? So you mention all these, the method that you use to complete your research. And we will come to the methodology in details, inshallah. After you finish with the methods or the methodology, now you can jump to the following part, which is what did you get? What did you get means what? Your results. So now we talk about the results. When you talk about results, usually will be numbers. So you will be there some numbers, some percentage. This is very important to include numbers here in your results. Okay, because now you have a result. Result usually there are curves, graphs, tables, and these have a numbers and have some data. So now the good time to include or to put your data on this section. After you finish with the results, you move to the last part, which is this they call the closure, or some people they call the conclusion, or some people they will call the significance. Why your study is important, or why the scientific community or researcher actually want to know about your result. Then you mention, you say this work provides, for example, proof of concept, or maybe you can mention this results can be good to for something. You create a conclusion and then you link it to real life application. For example, this material will be good for batteries, for example, and can also be good for supercapacitors if you're talking for developing some material, for example. Just try to make it to make your research looks very important. And this is called why your study is important, which is the last sentence. Maybe here I make it a little bit long, so you can make it short. Maybe one line and a half is also enough. So guys, this is about the abstract. Keywords here, I will try to move so fast here. The keywords are specific words that describe the main topics, methods, or focus area of the paper. The keywords usually after the abstract, you will need to put some keywords. Keywords maybe 5, 6 keywords, 7. It depends on the journal also. The journal, some journal they require only 5, some 6. So what is the keywords? Keywords is, we didn't need to define what the keywords. They are of course specific words related to your research. So what is the things that you should be careful about? First, discoverability means the improved chance of being found on academic search. Because, guys, now you are concerned about get your research published, right? Later, inshallah, in future, you will become more concerned about making people cite your work or make your research article is like important to the community. So you want people to cite your work. You want people to use your research article, of course, after you publish. So please, from now, make sure that when you select the keywords, make them more discoverability or more discoverable. I mean, when you type on the search engine about your research, it will maybe come on the top 10. This is very important. Also, summarize content. Of course, the keywords highlight the main ideas, techniques. If you are using the techniques, then put the techniques in the keywords. If you are developing new method, put the methods in your keywords. Also, target audience. This is another point, which that if you are, for example, from civil, then of course use keywords that are related to civil. If you are from electronics, also you try to use keywords that are relevant to your research area, because people from that discipline or from that research area can easily find your article when they search for it. So this is the important of choosing the correct or the appropriate keywords. Also, it makes them more specific. Try to avoid a very general keywords. Applicable means they are related to your research. Logical means also maybe do not exaggerate or choose something are not relevant. So please make it logical to your article or to your research. And of course, searchable, that can be easily indexed and also indexed in the search engine and also on the scientific database like in Scopus and Web of Science. Um, this is the things about the keywords. Again, I will mention about what the things that you should do and the things that you should avoid when you selecting or when you create your keywords. Number one, do pick specific terms, not overlay general. And this is also I mentioned. Please make the keywords is more specific to your research title or your research topic in general. Do include. Okay, so here this is very important point here. You know, sometime we might have a word and also have another word with the same meaning. In this case, you put one of these words on the title and another one on the keywords. I will give you an example. In the example that I show, there's something about I mentioned about titles, right? I show two example of a good title and bad title. And one of the title I mentioned about something zinc oxide. In the title I put ZNO. So this is what? This is a symbol for and maybe a symbol for some chemical, which is zinc oxide. So in the title I will put ZNO, the symbol of the title. In the keywords I will put zinc oxide. I will write it like zinc, ZN, okay, and then oxide, OX. I will write the full word. So do you get the point now? For keywords, sometimes it is a good idea to include two different words with the same meaning. One you put on the title and one you put on the keywords. The third point here, do check journal instructions for number format. And this is, of course, very important because some journal, they have specific number of keywords and some they have a specific format because sometimes you can use keywords, not only one word, like two, as I mentioned here, like zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is two words. So you would put two of them together as one keyword. It is two words, but we put them together as one. Now, what is the things that you should avoid? Number one, do not use extremely general word like study, data. So these things is very general. Try to avoid them because they are useless. They will not help you for the indexing. Also, do not pick terms that aren't discussed in the paper. And this is similar like in the abstract. So anything is not on your paper. So try to avoid that. The keywords, the title, and the abstract must only focus on the things that you have done in your research. Now we are moving to the one of the IMRaD elements, which is the introduction. Guys, I need you to focus more. The introduction. The introduction is basically, this is my definition, is storytelling writing. One of the biggest mistake usually students do when they write an introduction, they write things like, I will not say they are mixed together, but there is no coherence. Like they start writing about something and then suddenly they jump to another thing and then they go back to the first thing. It's like there is no coherence. The coherence is very important on introduction. Of course, I will give you an example about how to write an introduction like you are telling a story. So what do I mean by storytelling writing? It's actually something like you are moving from general to specific. First, you will like write about general things about your topic. Then you will go more specific. Then again more specific until you end up with your idea. The introduction should not be too broad or vague, and also more than 2 pages. This is very important. If you make your introduction is too broad, is this is like you are writing a book, or maybe you are writing an article in a newspaper, for example, or magazine. So please make it like something you are moving from general to specific. And the second thing is more than 2 pages. You cannot make it more than 2 pages. It will be too long. The best introduction, I will say that it is 4 to 5 or 3 to 5 paragraphs. Maybe 4 paragraphs or 5 is maximum, the introduction. Now, let us like take the steps or what's actually you should start with. Yes, I say from general to specific. Maybe I need to explain this is more to you, how we start from general to specific. For example, number 1, generally known information about the topic. First, you will start very general. Okay, I will give an example on the next slide. And then after that, after you talk general about the topic, you will go more specific only on the prior studies, historical context to your research. So you will see what is the recent research papers, or what's the recent what people have been doing on these days, or maybe on the last 3 or 5 years about your topic. So this is more specific. And then after that, you will start talking about or writing about your hypothesis, and also overview of the result. You will start talk about what you are doing in this paper. And at the end, how the article is organized. You want to know, or you want to tell the readers how you structure your article. I mean the remaining, of course, because now you are in the introduction. What is the remaining? The remaining, you have the methodology, and you have the result. You want to tell people how actually you proceed after the introduction. Okay, guys, now might some of you still confused about the introduction. Let me now, okay, before I go to the example, I want also to mention about what are the things that you should do and what are the things that you should avoid. And then inshallah, in the next, I will give a very clear example. Okay, so what are the things that you should do in the introduction? First, also again, sometimes I repeat information because they are very important. Start broad, means that you start very general. And then go specific. I will give you a quick example. For example, I do a research on solar cells. And the first thing, I will talk about what is the importance of having a clean energy, like solar cells. I will talk in general. What is the, for example, we need, where we need to install, this is general about solar cells. And then in the next, I will go more specific. I will talk in a very specific point in the solar cells. For example, I will talk about the efficiency of the active layer, because the solar cell have cells, right? And these cells have like many layers. I will only focus about the one specific layer of that. I don't want to confuse you more, because there's another example on the following slide. Second thing, cite key recent study to provide context. This is another thing very important. I noticed also some students in the paper that I reviewed before, they are using a reference are quite old. You know, even some from the 19s, or the even nowadays in the 19s is very old. Even before 2020 is old. In the starting from 2000 until 2010, this I will consider also old. Usually we try to only cite the recent 5 years. So please, when you put the references in the on the introduction, make sure are these research that you cite are updated, like they are new, because there is no point to cite something old unless you cite for something like some papers that first like introduce something. For example, there is an equation. There's a, for example, let's say there's a famous equation you want to cite. Maybe you can cite the original publication, or the first guy who talked about that method or that equation. Okay, in this case, there's no problem. Or you want to cite a book, and that book have some parameters that you want to use, or have some equation that you want to use. Okay, there's no problem. But if you want to talk about the study that people have been doing, it is better to focus on the last 5 years. So for example, now we are in 2025. Your introduction must have research citation only I mean after 2020 2020, after 2020. Another point here in the introduction is link paragraph to improve coherence. This is, guys, very important also. I said that when you start the first paragraph, it will be general, right? So before you move from the first paragraph to the second paragraph, please make one sentence at the end of the first paragraph to prepare the reader for the next paragraph. So for example, you talk about solar energy, then at the end of the paragraph, you will mention that one of the important aspects of solar energy or solar panels is having a good active layer, for example. And then in the next paragraph, which is more specific, you will only focus on the active layer, something like that. So link paragraph, we said that if you have 5 paragraphs, please try to make this paragraph are linked to each other so that it become like story. You talk general, then before you go specific, you make a little bit of one sentence to introduce the reader to the next paragraph, which is more specific. So make the paragraph are linked to each other. So now about what's the things that you should avoid. Number one, do not overload with unnecessary background. Yeah, this is also another one of the biggest problem or biggest mistake that usually students do, which is they create some background is very general. For example, they talk about physics. They talk about, for example, if we will stay in our example, the solar energy, they will talk about the light and how the light can be converted to electric energy from optical energy to electric energy, something like that. So in that case, you need to be careful, or you need to do what to avoid unnecessary background. Everybody know that solar cell, they convert light to electricity. So do not put things like that. They are very general. Also, do not include results or methods. This is also something about there will be section for methods and will be a section for results. Maybe you can give a little bit of introduction about what you do, but do not give any details about what's the methods or results that you have. The last thing, do not make the introduction too long. And I believe I also mentioned about this one. Too long is not good. If you have introduction more than 6 paragraphs, or maybe it will be too long, the reader will feel boring even before he continue to the methodology or to the results. So please also try to avoid creating a very long introduction. Now, guys, I will give an example of introduction, because introduction is one of the very important terms or elements of the paper. Let us have this title: Early Detection of Cancer Cells in the Circulating Blood Using Electric Field. This is an example. So now I want to write an introduction for this title. What I should do? I will follow these 4 steps or 5 steps. Number 1, I will introduce my topic in general. I will talk about cancer. I will write about cancer in general. I will talk about the cancer percentage, for example, in Saudi Arabia or in the Gulf or in the whole world. I will talk about why cancer is dangerous, what people use to treat cancer, and also what is the things that people you should avoid about so that they cannot get the cancer. I will talk general. Okay, this is the first paragraph. I will write that, and before I move to the second paragraph, I will conclude the first paragraph. I will mention that, okay, so now this is about cancer. Then I will say that, but it is good way to early detect cancer. Okay, so early detect cancer. I will conclude my first paragraph. In the following paragraph, which is the second paragraph, which now what should be more specific. In the second paragraph, I will mention about only detection, or more specific, early detection. So in the second, describe your background. Now I will focus more on the background. I will say more into the method used for early detection on cancer cells. For example, okay, first paragraph, general about cancer. Second paragraph, more specific on how we detect early, or how we early detect the cancer cells. So this will be the second paragraph. In the second paragraph, after you mention about the what the early detection of the cancer cells. Of course, you will mention about what people are using, what are the methods used to detect to early detect cancer cell. There's many methods. There are methods, optical methods. There are some clinical methods. Many methods to detect to early detect cancer cell. Okay, so now you are finished with the second paragraph. So how you conclude the second paragraph? This method that you are talking about, is there any limitation or they are perfect? There's no perfect. That's why we have a research. Nothing but so if these methods are not perfect, so now you will move to the third paragraph to establish your research problem. Now you will mention that, okay, these methods that I mentioned or I explain in the second paragraph actually have limitation. What is the limitation? Okay, so maybe these methods are costly, very expensive. Maybe the detection limit is very high. Maybe you need to have a lot of tests to confirm if there is a cancer cell or no. So now in the third paragraph, you are defining the research gap, and also you are defining the problems on these methods. You mentioned about many methods, and now what's the limitation or what's the problems in this method? Will be where this one will be on the third paragraph. Now, if you want to move to the following paragraph, now or you know now what is the problem. You define the problem, you find the research gap. Now you will talk about yourself or what you have been doing, and you will talk about your objective. You will start the paragraph with something like this. Usually we do this one in that research paper. You will say it on this paper, and then you will describe what you have doing. You will specify your objective. You will say on this paper, we discover maybe or we demonstrate a new method using electric field to early detect cancer cell, something like that. Now you will talk about your research. And then in the last paragraph, now I mentioned only 4 paragraphs. Maybe you can also make, if you want to have more details on the cancer, for example, you can make also another paragraph between the first and the second paragraph. But for this case, it's 4 paragraphs or 5 is enough. Okay, so now what is the last thing or what's the last paragraph you should write? This is actually sometimes, it's not in all cases. Maybe some people, they don't like. For example, in IEEE, they love to have this paragraph, which is to map out your paper. What does it mean to map out your paper? You will say that you will describe the structure of your paper. Now you are in the introduction, right? You will say that in the following section, we discuss the methods that we use to detect cancer cell in blood. You will describe, and then you will say that in section 4, we discuss the results or with you or something like that. You describe the structure of your paper. The remaining, I mean, because now you finish the introduction. You will only describe the following sections, which is the methodology and the results. So this is the things about the introduction. And this, I hope this is clear, a very clear example for you guys, because it's all paper like that. You need to structure your introduction like you are telling a story. You start general, then specific. When you go specific, you mention about what's the limitation of the current methods, and then after that, you introduce your paper or you introduce what actually you are doing. So I believe I will move now to the following. Yes.
In the introduction, when I discuss the previous methods and their limitations, how deep should I go? Because this alone can be like part of the literature review, and it can be like 2-3 pages alone to discuss the
No.
different methods and.
You summarize. If you have 3 pages, this is good for a thesis if you are writing a thesis. But if you are writing a paper, maybe the maximum you can make it 2 paragraphs if you have a lot. But I will only prefer to have only 1. Can we have the question and answer, inshallah, at the end? Because I need to just finish the remaining. Then, inshallah, we just type the question here, or you can tell me the question, then we can answer it. Because actually the time we have only 2 hours. So I believe now 1 hour already gone. The remaining now, the methodology and also the methodology, then the result discussion, and then we have the conclusion and the references. So now, what is about the methodology? First, the methodology explains how the research was conducted so that others could replicate or validate. This two words is very important: replicate or validate. What's mean by replicate? Some people, when they write their methodology, it will be not complete. If you want to replicate their work, maybe some of you already noticed that. You download the paper, you go to the methodology, you follow the step, but you are not getting the same result as those people have done. Why you are not getting the same result? Because those people who wrote that paper, they did not put all the steps. There is some missing information. But the good way or the ethical way to write a methodology is to make sure that if someone want to replicate or want to do your work, he will get the same result that you get. Make it very clear. And validate means that also, if you are doing, for example, a simulation, maybe someone after you, he want to validate the simulation. He want to do an experiment. And then he should have all the information. So now I will talk about key elements of the methodology. I believe you guys are from different research areas, from different disciplines, from different majors. So from from major to another major, the methodology actually will be different. In this slide, I will explain all the possible type of methodology. Research design, the first type of study. You know, there is an experimental study, there's a simulation, there's an analytical study, there's a case study. So these have different methodology. For example, experimental study, people usually they will do something like material preparation, they will do some kind of fabrication. People who are doing simulation, they will mention something about algorithms, they will mention something about modeling, boundaries condition, something like that. Analytical people, they will talk about data collection. So each one of these research design, the way that you structure your methodology will be different, but you should be all under methodology. Second element, materials, data sources. Materials like, for example, let's say equipment, chemicals, software, and data set. If you use any equipment, put it in the methodology. If you are using chemicals, all the chemicals that you are using in your research, you put them on the methodology. Software, if you are doing simulation with some software, put the name of the software in your methodology, and also sometimes the version of the software. Is it 2.2, is 2.1? You put also the version. Data set, this is also for people who are doing analytical study. If they are collecting some data from somewhere, mention about the data sets and also the date of that data set, because some data set will be updated. So you need to make sure that what time you are collecting this data. Experimental and computational procedures is also very important. You need to put this step by step. If you are doing experimental or computational, for example, you also put what's the steps that you are using to do the experiments. Do not miss any step. Please describe them very carefully of what was done. Models, equation, also if you are using models and equation, please describe these equations. If you are using some assumptions, you assume things, for example, or you approximate some parameters, also you mention about your approximation. Also, if you are using some algorithms, mention about these algorithms. The last element here, you can say that analyze methods. Some people, they might analyze methods, for example, the statistical tools, error analysis, performance metrics. I already mentioned about the equipment use. So mention all these things. If you are doing statistical, for example, you have large data, you want to analyze, then mention about these things. If you have error analysis, put the error bar in your curves. Okay, so this is about the methodology. Now, guys, I will tell you one of the very important things that you should put in your methodology. I believe no one will tell you about these things because very rare to use this in paper writings, which is illustration. How to describe your methodology in a figure, or you create you can use, for me, I use Inkscape. You can try to use this one. I will use Inkscape to design a figure or graph or illustration to describe my methodology. For example, if you can see this one, I describe here how I prepare my sample. I put this material here, then I create, I did the stern, and then I plus this material with this material, and then I put on the oven, and then I got my fabrication sensor, for example. Here, example of simulation. I put this model on the simulation. I clear like what is these colors. This is like rod. This is ring. This is, for example, material PLA, and this is, for example, another material. So this is the way. Another example here. This is like circuits. So I design a circuit, and then I like design this kind of figure to make clear that the reviewer, when they read my methodology, they understand what actually I am doing. I explain, for example, this block is reading capacitance, this block is amplification, this block is rectifier, for example, this block is comparator. So in this way, when you describe your method using illustration or curve, this is a very bonus for your paper. It will make the reviewer easily understand what you are doing, and this is good for your paper. I advise all of you, if you still do not have this kind of thing in your methodology, you should have it. This is another example here, also same. If you have some material you want to add together, so you have done some process like sonication, and then you are dropping your material on something, and then you have oven. Just the steps. You explain the steps in a figure. So this is easy for the eye to understand what you want to do. Also, if you are modeling, for example, this is an example of methodology of modeling using software like COMSOL, for example. You have some inputs, then you have some, like, for example, input parameters, like you want to simulate some parameters like density, viscosity, and this is your equation, for example. You have electric current, you have heat transfer, something like you are modeling something. And then you are doing also another inputs here, and then you get the output. Like you want to calculate the force, you want to calculate the velocity, you want to calculate the time. So you describe your methodology, something like that, like flow chart, but not the flow chart that we use it to do on the thesis or on the, on other research things. Here, another example, if you have a setup, what I mean by setup, for example, you have a computer to collect data from, for example, you have oscilloscope, you have function generator, so you connect all these things together. So this is make the reviewer understand what actually you are doing. When I see this one, okay, I know this guy, he have a computer connect to a generator, so he's generating a current signal, and then he have a oscilloscope to measure. Okay, I understand. He have a multimeter to measure, I don't know what, maybe the capacitance or maybe the resistor. So something like that. You use illustration to describe your research, or to give the reviewer or people who want to read your paper an easy way to understand the whole things. I mean, instead of going and reading about your methodology, he will give he will have the what they call the full picture about what you are doing, and this is easy to understand your methodology. Okay, so next. Now we are into the do and do not. In methodology, first, justify your methodology selection. So what's the things that you should do? When you write your methodology, the first thing that you should do, justify. What I mean by justify? Okay, I will explain to you. Justify means that you are, for example, choosing, you are doing some material science, okay? Then you select a very specific material. You said this material maybe will be good for my application, for my example, my battery. This material is good. Why? Then you need to put a justification, because this material, something like this, you need to explain why you choose this one. For example, you are doing some electric design electronic circuit. Then you want to select a frequency. You say, okay, I want to choose 500 kilohertz. Why 500 kilohertz? Why not 10? Why not 1 mega? Then you need to justify. Sometimes maybe for you it's difficult to justify. You can use reference. You put a reference. You say those people, they use 5 hertz or 5 megahertz. So I am following them. Why they are using? Because maybe they got a good result. So this is one way to justify, is to rely or to depend on people before you who would have done this. So you put a reference. So justification is very important in methodology. Anything you choose, material, method, algorithm, code, you need to say why you select that one. Because one of the reviewer question when they review your paper, they will say, why you choose this one? Why do not choose something else? Number 2, describe your procedures clearly so other can replicate them. So the procedure when you describe, I mentioned this also, make it easy for other people to replicate. So if someone wants to do your experiment, he have enough information. There is nothing missing. Include details on instrument, materials, and an analysis method. This is also very important. For example, if you are using, for example, oscilloscope to measure a signal, in your paper, maybe it is better or good idea to include the oscilloscope brand. For example, this oscilloscope, what is the model on which company you put between two brackets, the company and the model of the oscilloscope. So you give details on the instruments, because sometimes an instrument might give different readings. Materials, if you also want to include materials in your research, you also need to put the exact maybe the chemical symbol for your materials, and also the purity. You know, some people from chemistry, when they do some like reaction or something, they should include the purity. What's the purity of that material, and from where you get the material? I mean, what is the source? I will show also example of this, and also analysis method. If you use an analysis method, for example, XRD, FTIR, UV-Vis for chemical, for people who are doing materials, for people doing electric, maybe the IV curve or CV curve. So this analysis method you need to also mention. Use subheadings. This is also very important, because sometimes the methodology cannot all these things under the methodology. You need to have like sub sections. You know, the section is methodology. Then you have to have subsection. For example, section 1 materials and chemicals. Section 2 maybe modeling. Or something about the simulation details. If you want to do simulation, you put the simulation on one section, and then you put the experiment details on another section, and then the analysis tool in another section. So make it organized. Make your methodology organized. I will show you also an example of this. Okay. So now, what is the things that you should avoid? Number 1, do not discuss or interpret results in the methodology. So the result, leave it for the next section, which is the result and discussion. 2, do not omit key information. And this is very important. Some people usually they will some information they will not include. For example, if you are doing some statistical analysis or statistical study, you need to mention about the sample size. Or if you have a variable or you have a controlled variables, also need to mention them. Do not omit or delete some of the information that might be very important for people who come after you to replicate your study. The methodology examples, I will give here some of the examples of the methodology. You can see here in this one example, for example, you have section methodology. They put subsection here, materials, and another subsection, for example, substrate preparation, if they are doing something about prepare some substrate. Also, they will mention about something about the synthesis, for example. Another example here, this actually is, I believe, I'm not sure actually what this terms means, but I believe this is something mechanical study. They also, for example, they put here the experiments, and they have here another section for the analysis of some specific of particle properties. Another example here is about study talking about the, I believe this is some kind of data security, or they mention something here about correlation analysis and then interest package processing. You see all the words, something about processing, experiment, analysis, methods. So basically, this is how your methodology will look like. And how you choose this is based on your work. Is your work have simulation? Maybe you can start with the simulation. Your work have experiment, then put it after that. Your work have some analysis methods that you want to analyze your device or whatever, you put it there. So you structure this methodology based on your work. There is no general or like specific format you should follow. This is completely open to you. You are the one who decide. You might notice here in these two examples, the methodology is actually section 3, but the methodology is actually section 2 after the introduction. Because some study before the methodology, they will put something about theory. They will make a new section called theory if they are doing a lot of mathematics. However, for our today's session, we only focus on the IMRaD structure. You see here in the right side, this is detailed about one of the papers. For example, in methodology, they put section 2 methodology, section 2.1. They mention about the materials. What's the material they use in their work? They mention about the material, the purity of the material, something about I guess from where they got the material. Sometimes they will mention the company. I mean the original company, the supplier, not the local supplier, the supplier. For example, Sigma Aldrich, for example, if people who from chemical, I guess they know this. If you are using, for example, PCB, you are doing some electronics and you have a PCB, you mention about the company that you fabricate your PCB. The second here subsection is about substrate, for example, preparation. You mentioned also about, for example, you are using some kind of device. You need to mention the name of the device or the brand. Also, some similar here. This guy, he used some kind of a furnace or an oven. He mentioned about the company. I mean, all the details. Try to make sure everything that you know, you put it in your methodology. Okay, so this is everything about the methodology. Now we will move to the, I believe, the before last, which is the results and discussion. This is also one of the very important section or paper elements, which focus on two things. First, results, and then discussion. In some papers, people will separate. They will make the results is a separate section, and then the discussion is another section. But I suggest that it's better for you to have these two together. You display your results and then do the discussion for that result. And then you can move one by one. But if you want to separate them, then first you need to list all the results. And then in the following section, which is the discussion, you need to create a discussion for each of those results. For each like section or each table or each figure, you need to create a discussion separately. But I recommend and I advise you, it's better to make the result and discussion as a single element or a single section. You display your result and then discussion. So the results, what you found. It can be data, it can be facts, it can be evidence, it can be numbers, it can be curves, tables. So these are the things that you find. After you're doing some result, and of course, after you finish the result, you will have an information, you will have some data. This is your result. So the discussion is what those findings mean. So now you have a lot of results, you have a lot of data. So what those findings or those data mean? You have to analyze them, and you have to explain to the reader what the results mean to you and maybe to the readers. And maybe you support the things that you say with references also. So it can be interpretation and could be comparison, like you compare your result with previous studies, and also can be significance for the readers and for you also. So for result and discussion, I will say that the best way or the best approach to write your results and discussion to do something like that. Describe, explain, relate. First, okay, sorry, before we go there. Describe your results. So you have a figure. Describe what's the figure. For example, the x-axis is the time. The y-axis is, for example, the capacitance or the resolution. So, for example, you are describing your curve. You are describing the result that you have. This is number one. After you describe, explain. So, for example, why, when you go, for example, when you increase the time, for example, the capacitance change, for example, or the pressure, for example, increase. When you change one of the parameters, the other one change, like decrease or increase. Explain why they are decreasing or why they're increasing. So this is first you describe, then you explain, then you relate. You can relate the things that you already explained now. You can relate to other studies. You can relate to in the same study. You can relate to other things. For example, you have many samples. So after you explain the first sample, then you go to the second sample. You will relate the result of the second sample to the first one, and then you will compare them. So this is they called by describe, explain, then relate. Then add the text and the trace back to the data. For example, when you explain your data, when you explain your result, try to start your sentence or to start your paragraph about like this. Like, for example, figure XA shows. You are now explaining figure, for example, 1 or figure 2 shows something like this, and then why it is shown like that, because there is something you expect, and then you explain. You are expecting to get this result. Okay, good. Sometimes you can get a result that not expected. You also mention about that. Another point here, examine tables, figures, and graphs. And this is very important. In your results section, you should have figures, you should have tables, you should have graphs. So your result representation will be in these forms. This is the best way to represent your figures are actually in terms of figures and graphs and tables. Another point here, draw your own conclusion from figures and graphs. You draw your own conclusion, and then maybe you can compare with other people. You can compare with your own study. Sometimes you have paper already published. So now you want to compare with your previous publication, or maybe with other people's papers or work. Or sometimes you can just you compare your own results. As I said, for example, you have many samples, then you can compare between them, and you give like investigation. You investigate why this is getting like this result and why the other one is different. Then you explain. Okay, so in this slide now I will mention about the result and discussion again. Demonstrate that you solved the problem. I mean, when you feel that you are confident about your result and discussion, you need to ask your question. You need to ask yourself a question. Demonstrate that is your paper. Demonstrate that you solved the problem or made significant advances. So after you finish all the results and discussion, you will ask yourself, did you solve the problem? Maybe you create a problem at the beginning. So if you are not solving the problem, maybe is the result that you have are significant, are they important? If not, maybe you need to try to, what I will not say redo, but try to improve the way that you discussion, and also try to relate your discussion to your objectives. Something like you mentioned that you achieved the objective that you wrote on your introduction or in your abstract. Just to give you a quick comparison between the results and discussion. So results usually, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is just a summarized data. You have a lot of data, now you summarize this data. You summarize in the form of a table, in the form of a curve or graph. Should be clear and concise. So I will mention in the following slide, inshallah, about the tables and figures, how we should create them. So second, use figures and tables, and also I mentioned this one in the previous slide, but I repeat because this thing is actually very important. In the discussion, interprets the results, why your research offered a new solution. You will, of course, you need to make your research work looks important. You will try to convince the readers or the reviewer or the people that you want to send your paper, or maybe your supervisor also, why your research offers a new solution. Like, what's this solution that offer? Sometimes it doesn't be to have something like new or novel, especially for your since you are undergraduate. Sometimes if you just replicate a previous study, that is enough. I mean, because later on in the master's, inshallah, or PhD, if you want to further your study, then you need to focus more on these things. You need to explain how your research offers a new solution. And then acknowledge any limitation. This is also another important, because sometimes maybe there is some things we did not include in the paper, or maybe in our results there is some shortage, like not perfect. So we need to be honest. You need to address limitation. For example, say, okay, I fabricate this my sensor to detect, for example, hydrogen gas. Okay, good. But my sensor only work at 100°C temperature. So your sensor is not working in room temperature, is not good on low temperatures, only works if there is a high temperature. So this is called the limitation. So if you have this limitation, you need to mention it. You need to mention that. This is called, you need to be honest, and also you need to follow the ethics of the research. Okay, so now I will explain about, since we are doing a results and discussion, so it is very important to know about figures and tables. And this is also one of some of the problems that usually student they ignore, or maybe they are not familiar with, or they do mistakes. Usually, your paper might get rejected if you do these mistakes. So let me explain to you about what is a good figure and what's a bad figure, or graph in general. So number one, detailed caption of the figures and subfigures. Okay, before I go here, I will just explain these two. I will compare this one with this one, and what you should avoid. You see, in this result or this table, there is like 4 problems. Number one, legends are missing. Like we have two figures, sorry, we have two curves, the blue and the red. But we don't know what is the blue and what's the red. So it is very important to what, if your figure have multi-plots, then you need to include a multi-plot legend. So we understand now the blue is the input and the red is the output. So please do not forget to include the legend. Sometime even if you have one. If you have one, sometime you need to also include. That's good. Number two, the mistake here, labels for X and Y are missing. This guy have this graph or figure, but there's no labels here. There's no labels of X and Y. So you need to include. For example, here X, what is time? And also do not forget the unit. If you have time here, this unit is second. And here voltage, and the unit of voltage is volt. So do not forget the labels and also with unit. So this is another, you need to avoid this mistake. Also, there is another problem here, which is the caption is missing. So this figure is about what? I cannot understand. So you need to add a caption like this. You see it, figure 1, differentiator circuit voltage. So okay, now I understand. This circuit is differentiator. So the red is the input of the signal and output is the red one, which is the output. So now I understand what's this figure about. Another mistake, the resolution of figure is low. So I barely read these numbers. They are not clear. So also you need to make sure that the resolution of your figures are clear, like can be seen easily. Okay, can be seen easily. Sometimes you need maybe to increase the font size. Also, you can increase the font size of the title, of the labels, and also for the title and the caption. So these mistakes you need to avoid. You need to make sure the way that you include your figure in your paper is good. Avoid this problem or avoid these issues. Same thing for the table actually. You need to table our label. You need to label the table, put a label. But table usually the title of the table or the label will be on the top. But for figures usually we will put the caption at the bottom. So these are two different between table and figures. A few points here I want to add. Number one, detailed caption of the figure and subfigures. Sometimes this, this is only one. In some case, you might have more than one. Like you have this figure, there's another figure here, another figure. So you need, for example, to say figure 1A, describe blah, blah, blah. Figure number 1B, so you need to put for both. Use drawing tools, Origin Lab or Python. I believe most of you maybe, I'm not sure, they are using Excel, Microsoft Excel to draw the tables, to draw the figures. So they have the data set, they have X and Y, for example, and then they put an Excel and then they draw. I will advise you and suggest you to try Origin Lab. This one of the best tools. I believe that KFUPM also have the license for this application, Origin Lab. It is very good tool to draw a very nice figures and graphs. Please, if you're still using Excel, Microsoft Excel, try to move to this one. Python, I saw some people that are using Python for drawing or MATLAB, but these are quite, for me, it's complicated. I just use Origin. So maybe we can do a lecture or maybe a webinar in Origin Lab some other time. Make sure that data is precise with acceptable resolution. And this is also very important. Sometimes if your data, you need to see how many decimal points you need to include, and also the resolution means make them clear. So this is about the figures and table, because figures and table is let us say, the first important element of the result and discussion. They are very important. If you do not have tables and figures, then you do not have result. So we come to the section of do and do not. For results, you should present finding logically. Logically, also again, similar like when I said in the introduction, they should start from general to specific, because sometimes you have a very general results, then you will go more specific in your result. So please move from general to very specific. This is very important. Also, use tables and figures effectively, as I said. So also one of the problem, people sometimes they use a lot of figures and a little of explanation. So maybe he have 10 figures, but then the way he explain, like he explain only one sentence for each table, and then maybe some table they are not explained. Please, if you want to include tables and figures, you need to include them and to explain them effectively. So do not overuse a lot of tables and figures, and then you miss some of them. Or maybe one table you explain, one figure you explain one paragraph, and the second table you explain one sentence. You also need to balance. Another thing, highlight key trends and significant outcomes. Some result might be very important, so you need to highlight more on that result. Like you feel that is your best result, because sometimes you have a lot of results, but some of them are good, or you define them as the best. So maybe you need to highlight more on those. So what's the things that you should avoid? Number one, do not interpret or explain, because now I'm dealing with the result only, which is the first part of the result and discussion. So the interpret will be only on the discussion. If you are using separate the discussion section, because some people, as I say early, they might have different section for discussion and different section for result, but I don't recommend this. Do not repeat all data in text and tables. This is also another issue. Some people, they might repeat things. They like to repeat or explain again and again. So please, the repetition is one of the things that makes the reader feel boring. If you are repeating a lot of things, this is not only on the result and discussion. This is overall your paper. If you are repeating things, the reader will feel boring. So sometimes even in one sentence, please avoid to use one word more than one time. So you are writing a sentence, do not repeat one word twice in the same sentence. This is one of the like killer mistakes on paper writing. Try to avoid that. Do not overload figures with too many details. And this is also very important. Some people, when they have a figure or graph, in the figure itself, they will do a lot of writing. So the figure will become like not clear, or maybe the writing on side the figure will be very small and cannot be read. So try to avoid this one. Do not overload figures with too many details. Okay. For the discussion, also there is few things you need to do and to avoid. Also, for example, in a discussion, maybe you need to compare or to interpret your findings in light of previous research. You are getting some good results. Maybe you need to compare with the previous study, or maybe you need to cite some previous study to validate your results or to support, because sometimes you have a result, but you are not sure it is good or not good. You go check other papers. If they have something similar, like that means that okay, now I am confident, because the result that you have, there's other people also got something similar. So this is a support for your result. I mean, not all, but some parts of the result you need to have support. Explain what the result means and why they matter. So why this result like this, why this is increasing, why this is decreasing. You give an explanation. Sometimes can be expected, sometimes cannot be expected. You just explain as it is. Mention possible limitation. Also, I mentioned that about there's some limitation and future direction. Future direction should be actually on the conclusion. What's the things that you should avoid? Number one, do not just restate result. I mean, some people in the discussion, they will just explain. They will say the x-axis have, for example, about time, and then they will just explain. Like they are converting the figure from a figure to a writing. No, this is not enough. After you explain, you need to relate. You need to make a discussion, maybe a comparison between previous studies, something like that. Do not ignore. Yeah, this is sometime might be some conflict in your findings, or maybe some things they are not add together. So might in these findings, you need also to explain why they are like that. And also we need to be honest about this. But this is actually very rare, because if you're having a result is not fit together or they conflict each other, maybe there is something wrong in your methodology. Then maybe you need to adjust your methodology or check what is wrong, and then you correct it, and then you will have a good result. Do not make claims beyond your data. This is also one of the very important things that you should be careful about. Do not claim things that your data doesn't have. You have a data, okay, good. You have a good result, okay. So make your claims only fit with your data. Do not claim something that you do not get. Because in that case, it might look like you are lying. When you are sending your paper, you say, I did these things, I got something, the best. Maybe some people, they will say, okay, I fabricate a solar cell with an efficiency have never been reported. Like he claimed that the result had he get in his result, nobody before him did this before. You can put this one, of course, if it is true, but if it is not true, or if you are not sure, then you also need to mention that. For examples, actually, I don't want to spend more time here on the result examples. I will just try to give you some examples. For example, in the result can be something like that. You take a picture of your device if you are fabricating something. If you are doing some pictures, also you need to highlight the pictures. Also, in your result and discussion, you need to have also, again, subsections, similar like methodology. Maybe one subsection about your characterization, another section about your algorithms, and another section about the simulation result, another section about the experimental result. So it's depend on your research. So do not put all together on the result and discussion. Try to make it more organized. Organization is a key for your paper to be accepted. If the structure is nice and the way that you organize your paper is attractive and good, it might be a reason for your paper to be accepted. The result can also be in this form, like you can use MATLAB to generate kind of these pictures, or it can be like this, like you have a curve here with X and Y, and sometimes you can put a small picture inside the curve. They call this an inset, means that you had a curve that this information or this data and this curve or this graph is taken at this point, for example. Sometimes people, they are using this one. They make nested figure. Like you have a figure, then you have another figure inside to highlight a portion of the data. Something here similar. For example, you might have like one x axis, and then you have y1 and you have y2. This is also another way of data presenting. And for this one also same, like I explained here. You have this figure, and also you have another nested figure. Nested figure, maybe some of the point maybe not clear. Then you will do what? You will do some kind of magnification. So you will resize these things to show the result at this small point. Okay, this is another way, but this is actually advanced for you, or maybe later on, inshallah, when you start your graduate study, maybe you need to do this one. This is one of the things that make your paper has high chance to be accepted. Maybe sometime also you need to add some arrows when you explain in your discussion. You will say, okay, the red arrow explain blah blah blah, or the red arrow pointing to something, for example, low electric field point. Here also you have like a yellow arrow mentioned, for example, to a location with a strong electric field, something like that. Sometimes you need to add these things to add to make your results is an advanced way of presentation. So when you present your data with this a little bit advanced things, it is not actually advanced, but if you are using them, it might make your result look better. So do not just use a normal figure like you are using in your textbooks or you using in your assignments. The following element. So I think now two remaining, but they are a little bit short. So I will finish them. Maybe I need more 5 minutes to finish. The conclusion. The conclusion is the closing section of a research paper that summarizes the main findings and their significance, and may suggest future direction. It should be short, clear, and focused. A conclusion, I will say something like the abstract but the conclusion, it will focus more on the result or the main findings, like it will highlight more on the findings. It should be short, clear, and focused, because some people, they like to read the conclusion. They will say, what your research, what's the conclusion of your research? So what you should include, explain what the research has achieved. So what you achieved, as it is related to the problem stated on the introduction. Because in the introduction, you state a problem. You mention there's a problem. You mention there's a limitation in some of the research, the previous research from the literature review. So did your research achieve or accomplish this problem statement? Did you solve your problem or no? Maybe sometime you did not solve the exact problem, but you made some progress, or maybe you contribute in this problem to make it easier for the people who will come after you, or maybe you partially solve the problem. Revisit the key points in each section. Maybe you check what is the important things in your methodology. Maybe you need to write one sentence about the methodology in your conclusion. Include a summary of the main findings, important conclusion, and amplification of the field. Also, provide the benefits and shortcomings. And this is very important. What are the benefits of your research? What is the solution presented? You present a solution, so you need to highlight in the conclusion. Also, the shortcomings, because it's like mostly all the research, there is some limitation. There is a shortcoming. There is nothing perfect. There's things, as they say, there is a room for improvement. This is your research. Yes, good. Okay, good. If there is any problems, limitation, yes, there should be limitation. For example, what's the things that you suggest? If I give you a chance to do more research after this research, what you will do? For example, some people will say, okay, we need to test new parameters. In this study, we only tested, for example, the temperature variation. Maybe in the next study, we will discuss the humidity. We need to know what's the effect of the humidity on your device, for example. Maybe some people, they will say, okay, maybe I suggest that in future study, or maybe you are doing a simulation in 2D. Maybe you will say that, okay, in future study, I will do 3D simulation, so it will be more advanced. You mentioned about future suggestion that you will, or maybe if not you, maybe some people will read your conclusion, then they will have an idea from you, because you are experienced in this research, and you are giving some point for the people who will come after you to help them continue from the point that. So you stop at this point, people, they will come after you, they will continue from that point. So that's, you make things easy for the readers, or for people who are interested in your research. Suggest future area. This is also another thing. Maybe you suggest another future area or future direction for the people who come after you. In the conclusion, so what's the things that you should do and what's the things that you should avoid? First, summarize key findings and their implications. Keep it brief and focus on your research question. Another thing, also suggest practical applications or future study. This is one of the very important things, that suggest application. Because if your research have no application, it is useless. You are developing a material, for example. So this material can be used where? What's the application? You are developing a code, you are developing a software, you are developing, for example, an AI tools. So people, how they can use your research? What's the application? So you need to put the application in the conclusion. So what's the things that you should avoid? Number one, do not introduce new data or citation. This is similar like the abstract. In abstract, please do not put citation. Also in the conclusion, do not introduce new data or citation. New data means that you put new data, like in your conclusion. Please only put the data that you discuss in the result and discussion section. Select the best result and put it in the conclusion. Do not put any new data or citation. Also, do not make overlay strong or some people, they will put very strong claim or very strong words that we did this, or we conclude that we, for example, we invented or we created some new device, or we have a new theory. Of course you can, if you are sure about that, but in some time you need to be careful about that, because claims can be sometimes dangerous. If you claim something and then turn out that your claim is false, not true, it might be a little bit problem for you. And of course, some people might come up with a really good thing, the result that they reach or the conclusion that they reach might deserve to be mentioned in a very strong claim in their conclusion. Last thing, the references. For the references, I believe the references is a section in the list of all sources. What's the references? Is a list of all the sources cited in your research paper. In your research paper, you cited a lot of papers. I will assume you cited new articles, like maybe in the last few years, in the last 5 years, I would say. So where do you cite? Mostly in the introduction, maybe something on the methodology, maybe on the result and discussion section, you have some cited research or previous research. So this could be journal articles, can be book, conferences paper, reports, data sets, standards, and sometimes even website. You can cite website also in your paper. So what do you need to include reference? I mean, why? If someone asks you what's the benefit of including references, there's three benefits. First, to acknowledge previous research, because without those previous research, your research or the things that you are doing now will not be possible. You are doing this one, you are doing your research because you are actually stand on a previous work by other people. So to acknowledge them, you need to cite their paper or their work. Then also to support your methodology. Do you remember that when I said that when you select anything in your methodology, you need to justify, to mention that why you are using this one. So now the reference become very helpful here because you need to include reference to support your justification. So you justify this one, you select this one. Why? You will tell the reviewer because this guy or this previous study, they actually use this method. So I am using this method. Okay, good. This is a good support. Number three, to validate the hypothesis, your research proves or resolve. You have a hypothesis, you have a research problem, and you have an idea. So at the result and conclusion section, you have a result, right? So you want to convince the reviewer or the readers that your result is actually good. So how you can validate them? So how we can know that your result is true or false? How we can know if this result is actually a good result or maybe a bad result? One way is to cite, or one way is to use references to support your results, to support or to say that yes, my results is good. Why it is good? Because those people got something similar, and those people have good publication, or maybe their paper is Q1 and they reach to the same conclusion, or I reach to the same conclusion of those people. So that's why you will say that this reference is supporting your findings. There is no limit to the number of references. So maybe here I will talk about the criteria of references. There is no limit. You can use whatever number of references that you want, but I will say that for reference, for the number of references in a conference paper, maybe around 15 to 20, or maybe even like less than that. If you are doing a research article, the reference can be from 20 to maybe 35 to 40. I mean, this is the acceptable number of references. You can have more, you can have less, but this is the average number of references. But use those that directly support your work. This is also another important point, because do not cite any paper which is not relevant, like you are doing something on chemical engineering. Do not cite some paper on electronics, maybe, or on some different discipline, unless it is related. So please, all the paper that you cite, make sure they are directly support the work. Ensure proper author attribution. Okay, this is actually when you write the references, I believe you should be in specific format, and this format is just follow the publisher. You are published, for example, IEEE, then you are using the IEEE formatting. And now, because there's a lot of citation management tool like Mendeley, you can just use those tools to organize and to manage your references. Now, I believe this is the last slide, which will again say What are the things that you should do, and what are the things that you should avoid when you write references? Number one, you need to follow the correct citation style. This is also very important. When you send the paper to a journal, you need to follow their style. For example, we have ABA style, IEEE style. There's many styles. And as I mentioned, if you are using some tools, for example, like Mendeley to manage your citation, it will be much better for you. It will save a lot of time. So I suggest all of you to learn how to use Mendeley, for example, or any other reference management tools. Include only sources cited in the text. What does it mean? You know, sometimes you have a reference that you cite. This is put in the reference. Do not put anything in the reference that actually not use it in your paper. Only put the reference that are used in your paper. What's the things that you should avoid? Number one, do not use outdated or irrelevant sources. I also mentioned this one. Please use new, for example, in the last 5 years. And also irrelevant means that sources that are not actually related to your paper. Avoid to use that. And this means that you need to make sure all the references are correct. Also, do not list references you did not cite. I also mentioned this. And do not mix formatting style. So maybe some people, they will do, actually this when you do referencing manually, a lot of mistakes will happen. For example, you are using the first 3 references, IEEE style, and then the second, you are changing the style to another style. But if you're doing the referencing or site management using some kind of tools like Mendeley, you will avoid all these problems. So I will suggest you from now, if you are really interested to do research in future also, you learn how to use management or reference management tools like Mendeley. It will be very helpful for you. I think we have only 10 minutes. I will open the room for question and answer. But before that, there are some of the things that I did not talk about, which is the verb tense. This is one of the very important things also, like what verb tense you should use in which section. For example, in the abstract and introduction, what type of the verb tense you should use. This is actually depends on the journal publisher style. You know, some people, they will prefer you to use the present perfect. Some they will ask you to use the past perfect, for example, on the methodology. And you might get the slides later on, or the recording of this session, if you want to know more about the verb tense. Because it's only 2 hours, so I cannot go in details regarding the scientific writing, a verb tense review. So I believe you can find this in many places. Last thing, the author last task. So now you wrote your paper. You wrote all the elements, all the sections. You completed your paper. So you need to do some things before you submit. Number one, how do they fit together? Make sure that all the formatting, all the sections is actually in the correct order, and they are fitting together. Does each section perform its task? So each of your sections is performing the task. For example, the methodology, describe the methods, all the methods, yes. You created this discussion for all the figures, yes. You need to check in the introduction. Did you wrote your introduction in the storytelling format? Like you move from general to specific? Yes. Check. So you check all the elements. Is the order logical? And if you follow the IMRaD structure, so that means that your order is logical. Do the ideas flow together? Is it easy to read? Maybe this is you need to print your paper. You print it out and then you read it from a paper, not from the computer, from PDF. No, you need to print it out and then you read it for one last time. You need to make sure the flow of the ideas. So there is no jump from one idea to another. Also, the coherence of your paper is strong. Another thing, does the same material appears more than one? This is very important. Also, make sure that there is no repetition. Because sometimes when you do the editing, you might copy one of the section or maybe one the paragraph or one sentence. You use it in 2 places. So this will means that there is some repetition in your paper. So you need to check there is no sentence appear more than one. Can it be clearer? This is maybe you need to ask yourself, can I make it more clear? Maybe some of the sentences or maybe some of the paragraphs. Can you make it more clear? You need to check also. Are those are there enough details? So, for example, in the methodology, did you give all the details? So, if someone read, can he replicate your work? If the answer yes, then you are good to proceed with the submission. Okay, thank you for your time and thank you for listening. I hope this short session, it is not short actually, 2 hours, is useful for you. And I will welcome your question. I will be happy to answer you here, or maybe you can contact me in person if you want to have more, if you want to know more, or if there is some of the section is not clear to you, or if you want to, I mean, anything generally in research. I believe, I'm not sure if you have my details. You can either email me or you can either contact me directly. I am available on building 59, room 2035, Center of Communication System and Sensing. If you have questions here, maybe I can take few, maybe 5 or 2, 1, 3. I already can see there are some people here are asking. So any question?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Doctor, will these slides be available? I mean, at the shortest time or very early, so we can work on it.
I think I recorded. I will just check after I close the meeting or leave the meeting. I think it will be saved in my computer. I actually never record the session before, but I believe, yeah,